New information now from the CDC is showing just how fast the Omicron variant is spreading in this country. The agency estimates that the strain accounts for more than 95% of new COVID infections in the U.S. just last week. And this comes as President Biden offered a stark warning yesterday for Americans who are still refusing to get vaccinated.
You know, be concerned about Omicron, but don't be alarmed. But if you're unvaccinated, you have some reason to be alarmed. Many of you will, you'll experience severe illness in many cases if you get COVID-19, if you're not vaccinated. Some will die, needlessly die.
So Weijia Jiang is at the White House to talk more about the latest on the administration's response to the coronavirus. Weijia, what we heard from the president right there is something we've heard before from him. He is begging unvaccinated Americans to get the shot. They've also heard it before from him. So my question is, what now is this administration doing to encourage those last holdouts to get vaccinated and the others who are sort of on the fence about getting boosters?
So, Anne-Marie, even though we have heard this message from the president before, I think there has been a clear shift from get vaccinated, get the boosters, to protect yourself and perhaps not get the virus, which is something he has said in the past several months ago. And now it's very clearly that there's a likelihood that you're going to get the virus, right? But if you're boosted, if you're fully vaccinated, you're not going to die. At least it's very unlikely that you will. And that's a pretty stark message, right? Because it's being very blunt. It's saying that this is the function of the vaccine. This is what it can and can't do. And what it can do is probably keep you out of the hospital and probably keep you alive. So I think that we'll be hearing a lot of that message, even more from President Biden as they continue their ongoing campaign to try to get those shots in arms. But to your point, Anne-Marie, at this late in the game, it's hard to imagine exactly what you can do or say. There are already vaccine mandates. There are already several anecdotes of people who, everybody knows somebody who's been impacted by this. And it's hard to imagine, what you could do in terms of policy to get people to change their minds.
Yeah, it's so true. There have been carrots, there have been sticks. The vaccine is readily available and it is free. And, still some people are not moved and perhaps will never be moved. I want to pivot, though, to the CDC's new guidance when you are infected with COVID. And, a lot of people were sort of confused. The quarantine days was cut in half. And then now the CDC is saying that, you don't even have to be tested in order to leave isolation, as long as you feel good after 5 days. Meanwhile, we're hearing from Education Secretary Miguel Cardona, and he's argued that schools should remain open as cases surge. But, without enough testing kits, I think that has a lot of parents concerned. I'm trying to figure out what the focus is for this administration in the way they're tackling the pandemic in this new phase. In the beginning, it was masks and social distancing. Then there was a push to get everyone vaccinated. What is the focus now?
I think that remains the focus, Anne-Marie, and even though they haven't explicitly said so, I think the hope is that people can try to live with this virus and they can take whatever steps they can to keep life as normal, as relatively normal as possible, because the president has made clear that he has no intention of reverting to any kind of lockdown or federal restrictions. That will be up to the states. And so I think they are trying to keep schools open. They're trying to keep the economy running because the president's aware of how Americans view his handling of the economy. Not good. If you look at a string of polls that all show the same result. And, that is something that he has to grapple with because from the very beginning, he has said that these two pandemics are tied together and that as long as there is the coronavirus here with us, it will be hard to rebuild the economy to the point that he would like it to be. And so I think trying to get to normal is important. But I don't want to just brush over the CDC guidelines that you mentioned because they are important because they were so confusing for people. So yesterday, we were actually anticipating that the CDC was going to announce a new testing component to their scale back of the isolation period from 10 to 5 days. Dr. Anthony Fauci even teased it over the weekend when he was pressed about this, because there was so much backlash from outside health experts to say, wait a minute, 5 days is quick. If you don't get a test, you could still be infected. You could still be contagious, and you could then be out here again spreading the virus. And so we thought that the CDC was going to say, after 5 days, you can stop isolating as long.
Oh, I think maybe we lost her, which is really unfortunate, because, this is a topic that I think a lot of people are talking about now. And I suspect that, part of it has to do with the limited access to tests, period. If you tell everybody they got to test first, but they can't get their hands on tests, how are you going to implement that? Weijia, you're back with us, which I'm very grateful for.
What I was saying to the audience is,
there you go.
Yes. The very next point I was going to make is that they do have a caveat, which is they said if someone has access to a test and they want to take a test, then they should. And then if they test positive, they should continue to isolate for another 5 days. And so on CBS Mornings, Dr. Celine Gounder, who was an advisor to the Corona Task Force for President Biden before, she described this very well in saying that it's sort of like a choose your own adventure if you get COVID. If you can get a test, if you feel like testing, go ahead. If you don't, that's okay. Just keep a mask on. So it is very confusing for people, I think. But the bottom line is that the CDC did not change their formal recommendation to come out of isolation after 5 days.
Yeah. And just as a side note, good luck trying to find a test at your local pharmacy or, Target or a Walmart. They have been sold out since before Christmas. On to the next topic, though. And this is something that actually we have not seen the administration focus on as much. But the Biden administration announced yesterday that it's ordering about 10 million courses of Pfizer's antiviral pill. It's called Paxlovid. But the only issue with that is that shipment's not going to even be available until the summertime. And experts are telling us that we're going to see a peak in Omicron by, next month, mid-February. Yeah. So I'm wondering why the administration is making this order in the first place.
I don't think it's really up to them when they can get their hands on this pill, because we know that it is very difficult. It's a very long process to manufacture the pill. So I think that, they are placing this order because we don't know what's ahead of us. What we do know is that the virus continues to mutate, and Omicron may be the latest variant, but there could be another one on the way. And I think that this is just another tool that the administration hopes to add to their kit in case there is another summer surge. They'll be able to have that pill available because it is very effective. But to your point, Anne-Marie, it's not going to get here in time to fight off the next surge that doctors are warning us about.
Yeah. But you also make a good point about, a possible another surge, because if there's one thing that we have known about this virus at this point is that, it's a wee bit unpredictable, and there's always another sort of curveball around the corner. Weijia, thank you very much.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.